the pandemic has been obviously a very tough time for people across the world. That's when we figured that let's sort of refresh the content lineup across all brands. A lot of people have worked very hard to take, the current set of brands that, we're referring to. No one has 100% point of view on what will pan out and the way it will pan out, right? Or anything.
Hi Anshul, this is Siddharth from IWMBuzz Media Network. Thanks a lot for your time and thanks a lot for providing us the opportunity to talk to you. So how have you been, sir?
I've been good, Siddharth. Good. Very well, actually. Fortunate and grateful for that. And thank you for sort of taking time out to do this conversation.
Wonderful. And, there's a lot of buzz around the youth, music, entertainment space in Viacom. A lot of people are talking about it. You have very ambitious plans. Can you briefly walk us through your content strategy for FY23?
Yes, of course. So, to be fair, we've been doing some soul searching and had a lot of insights that have emerged. And the biggest one for us, frankly, Siddharth, is that, the pandemic has been obviously a very tough time for people across the world. But for young people, their definition of future is the longest, right? In literal terms, because they're young. And therefore, for them, it's been a complete sort of, it's been devastating and something they never imagined, right? But they've emerged more resilient. And along with that resilience, I think one thing that we realized was that they're very optimistic about the future, but at the same time, the need that entertainment fulfills for them is changing somewhat, right? And I think it's changing in the direction of them wanting to escape into a slightly different reality, a little better than what they are perhaps living in as we speak. And that's when we figured that let's sort of refresh the content lineup across all brands, right? So we're starting with our sort of flagship property, Roadies. Very different format, new host, new location. And that's one sort of, and you will know about it soon when it launches in a month from now. But, again, what we said was, okay, Roadies is about adventure, about self-discovery and about a journey. Let's put all this together and make it, more relevant to 2022. So that's Roadies. After Roadies, we're going to Hustle. Hustle will again be different, and I can share more about that as we get closer to the launch date. We're also launching Fully Faltu, which is our social video offering. It's short form, snackable, quirky content present across platforms, and so on and so forth. We're also revamping Comedy Central and Colors Infinity. So the content lineup there will also get sort of very interesting and unique and be refreshed. And the idea is, again, to give our audiences the kind of world that they want to escape. I think that's the underlying thought.
Wonderful. So it's very interestingly that you mentioned about soul searching. So it is also, it would mean self-introspection in terms of what was working and what was not working. So the ideas are phenomenal. But Anshul, how do you motivate yourself or gear up for the challenge that's coming from the so-called consumption rise in the internet ecosystem? So youth, there's a written word that youth has moved on from watching television when it comes to the content that is being offered. So how do you're also a young business person, so how do you deal with that challenge where you convince via your content people to come and watch on TV?
Right, that's a good question, Siddharth. See, to be honest with you, I think many years ago, right, from a Viacom perspective, we moved forward from a platform sort of centric approach to an IP centric approach, right? And let me give you an example. We did Splitsvilla, the last season of Splitsvilla. You'll be surprised to know that there was Splitsvilla on television, which was, Splitsvilla the way it was. There was a spin-off that was created and shown and streamed at the same time called Wild Villa on Woot Select, which is our OTT offering, right? And at the same time, we had an interesting sort of campaign or that content running on Instagram, right? With reels and stuff like that. Now, why I give you this example is because this is what classically, is transmedia storytelling. You've taken an IP and you've put different parts of it on different platforms and made sure that your consumer engages with you across these touch points. Now, when you start thinking of your business in this fashion, then television is one of the pipes that we cater to, right? And it's just that. So in that context, where the youth is, how many are coming onto TV, how many are leaving TV, who is watching what when, becomes immaterial, because our focus is Roadies as for example, in this case, Roadies and who it talks to across different platforms. Whether it's on MTV, whether it's on Woot Select, whether it's on social platforms and so on and so forth. So we've taken an IP first approach, and what that does is it also ensures that we remain relevant, because then your feedback loops are also wider, right?
Yeah.
That's the story. That's the approach we take here.
You still feel that there's enough content for the youth available on TV, and of course, its distribution can be different mediums. So there's a lot of. I'll just ask about. There's a lot of buzz about Ranvijay not being part of Roadies this time, and he has mentioned that this show is almost like a second baby for him. So how that decision must have been tough, and that tough decisions lead to changes. So what do you think about it? Its impact in terms of the property.
Well, I think honestly, to be very fair, so that's a good, interesting question you asked. A lot of people have worked very hard to take, the current set of brands that we were referring to, where it is, right? Whether it's MTV, Beats, Colors Infinity, Comedy Central, VH1, and so on and so forth. And we're very grateful for that, right? I think it's been a very sort of interesting symbiotic relationship, right? Where brands, individuals, shows, the journey is intertwined, right? So I think we're grateful for that. Just as I know a lot of people are very grateful for what we have managed to do as well over these years, right? It's a very long association with him and many other people. And at the same time, I think it's very important that we stay relevant to what our consumers are saying and listen to them and give them what they want.
Yeah. Fair enough. So, Anshul, one thing I'd like to state here, could be an opinion, could be a judgment, that when I saw even the press release when it came to us from your team, the plans that you have, the genres that you're entering, that you're not going into defensive. Like, you are pretty aggressive on the plans, and you are pretty sure that hum to front foot pe khelenge. So in the time to come, do you have a backup plan, or you have more such plans to acquire interesting IPs? And how do you see two scenarios where things are going good or things are not going so good? So what are your, say, an A plan or a B plan, if you can just share in 2 minutes?
Very interesting question, Siddharth, and maybe it's food for thought for me as well. But let me tell you this here. See, I think one thing we know is that when it comes to plans, right, we sort of look at the ends of the spectrum to think of what our approach should be. Oh, it's done well, it's not done well. But the truth is always in between, right? And to put it very simply, honestly, there is no plan B as such. We have a lot of conviction on what we're talking about. And I think we've been fairly sort of, what's the word for it? We've been smart about how we've looked at this from a commercial perspective as well. So I think on that side, the idea is that we have to experiment as much as we can with as little resources as we can. And we're very startup-like in that approach. If things work out, we will double down very quickly. We have the capacity to do that because we're backed by a large organization.
Absolutely.
If things don't work out, then we learn and we again pivot, right? Because this is 2022, right? And no one can say I think we have to be humble enough to understand that no one has 100% point of view on what will pan out and the way it will pan out, right? Or anything.
Especially in today's time.
In today's time, exactly. So we're quite sort of, we understand that, we recognize that. What it does mean is that our ears are closer to the ground. So we're constantly looking for areas where we think we're not doing well enough so that we can pivot. It leads to a little bit of chaotic madness when it comes to execution. But then I have a team that's capable of handling it all.
Wonderful. A team led by a good leader. And, we've already answered about the pandemic and how it kind of changed the overall scheme of things. So personally, forget Viacom, MTV. Personally, what do you feel are the 3 takeaways when it comes to the overall tectonic shift in the programming, content or distribution space? You felt that had pandemic not happened, this would have been panned out differently. So any 2 or 3 takeaways as a professional in the pandemic era?
It's a good point you raised. See, I think one is from a pandemic, this thing, right? And as far as the pandemic is concerned, I think one thing as a professional for me that has really sort of stuck with me is that I've realized the importance of social capital, right?
Yes.
As much as this is doing the job and we can talk on the screen, it cannot 100% substitute, at least in our business as a media professional, an actual face-to-face meeting or interaction, right? Especially when you're working with teams collaborating, there is some element that's important in my assessment.
There's creativity involved.
Yeah, I could be horribly wrong, and in another context it would not make any sense. But I think in my own context, I think that's very critical. So I've realized that, which is very important. I have also realized that there has to be, and I referred to this in the beginning as well, but the humility has to go up in the sense that you have to be able to accept the fact that things will not go as per plan, and because these are things that they're not in your control at all, and that makes it a very open mindset. Yeah, the ability to take risks actually goes up. Counterintuitively, you take more risks because you know that anyways, control is a myth. So I think that's the second piece. The third piece for me, obviously, is that content has become the avenues of monetization of content have opened up substantially post the pandemic. So traditionally, you see content, you always thought of content as, I will advertise and make money, or I will...
AVOD model,
and get money. But now I think it's powering different ecosystems, right? What if content can get you to shop more on an e-commerce application?
Yeah.
What if content can get you to partake in a fantasy game while watching a sports match? What if content can help you pick up a certain plan or subscription plan on your telecom service? So in this case, then content is not really direct, but I think this is another professional learning for me, right? What if content can help you, get more people to sort of to shop, to engage in other transactions, or to renew offerings. So I think content has different purposes, and therefore every large entity is looking at content in a different way. I think that for me that's a big learning, right?
Yeah.
And content is adding value beyond just the direct ways of advertising or subscription. So that's a unique thing.
So yes, so interesting takeaways, and content is the pivot, which is of course kind of is across spectrum. So I believe I have 4-5 minutes before it's an interesting conversation. Tell me something about your NFT vision, fully faltu, and this is something very new to India. It's the buzzword, but what do you think is gonna be a game changer, and how are you gonna be a leader in this space, which is still emerging?
Right, I think it's a good question. Honestly, for us, frankly, the way we look at things is that our first drop was successful. To be very honest with you, that's no guarantee of how subsequent drops will be. I think we'll continue to stay relevant and innovate, and then only then do you see value emerge.
And you have the fast move advantage, first move in terms of the other broadcasters. You have taken the leap first.
Yes, so our learnings have been significant. And the team is working currently to see two things, right? So the two focus areas for us, one is what is the innovation and format for the next drop, right? And there are lots of questions there and all that. And the other is how do you dial up the utility value of the existing NFTs? So for example, we're thinking of some experiences to offer holders of our NFTs that go beyond, anything that money can buy or anything that you could possibly sort of, it generally is unique, like the NFT itself. So I think that's the two areas of sort of interest for us. And from a longer term perspective, blockchain as a technology has a lot of potential. At the end of the day, we're in the IP business. The IP business has a lot of, there are, like all businesses, I guess, there are lots of these gray areas of, what is attributed to whom and so on and so forth. So maybe in about 3 or 5 years from now, there should be an opportunity for people to look at more equitable sort of returns for the creators who put in their blood and sweat based on blockchain in some way. So it goes beyond NFTs really, but it's something.
But it's still pretty nascent, at least in the Indian market.
I think globally too, it's nascent only, but it's, my own view, and be horribly wrong again, is that it's here to stay. So there will be, it's here.
So your skin is in the game right from the way go. So I'd like to ask you, like MTV for us or MTV for the community at one point of time was that you can listen to music or watch videos on MTV. Then it went to more roadies, Splitsvilla format. So say coming year or a few quarters down the line, what would MTV be if someone wants to say what is MTV's core would be? It's going to be more format based shows like roadies, Splitsvilla. It's going to be more music, or what is it that is in your mind, Anshul?
Well, I think the first thing for us is that MTV will continue to be culturally relevant, right? And whatever that means. And if you want to be culturally relevant, it's very difficult to plan a couple of years out, right? Because you don't know.
Constantly evolves.
Constantly evolving. So I can tell you a couple of things. One is that each of our existing formats will be dialed up 10x, and they will be made more relevant for the times we live in. So that's very clear, right? We will launch new formats. Last year we launched Anything for Love. We will launch more, possibly bigger formats even. So that will happen this year, closer to the end of the year. Music is an ecosystem we will continue to stay invested in. And like you mentioned, we used to watch music videos on MTV, so on and so forth. Now, Kanfood is going to take that spot, right? Which is an opportunity where you can we will invest in original music content creation for multiple platforms, right? So that's Kanfood for you. So music will remain. And then in some form, we will continue to dabble in sports. In what form, what we show, how we show it, etc. We don't know, but I do believe that India is at the
more on the gaming space, if I can intervene.
Gaming might be one, especially on our social platforms, but even regular sports, non-cricket sports, because I think at the end of the day, India's at the cusp of, we've been talking about this for a long time as to how we're becoming a multi-sport nation. And I think that is happening with every passing year. But I think the next 2-3 years, you will see that is becoming, getting accelerated even further. So that continues one form or the other.
So any final parting thoughts in terms of how the year is being planned? I know we have already spoken, but anything that you are excited about personally in your endeavor to make the new ambition of your bigger and better? Any parting thoughts, please?
Honestly, for me, what I'm most excited about is hopefully getting a chance to meet my colleagues more often. And as
Same
and as
here.
it's honestly very, very critical. I'm at a stage right now where we meet regularly, about maybe once a week or twice a week, but it's not as good as what it would be otherwise, right? And I'm
The
very
pre-COVID days.
Pre-COVID days, yes. And I'm very grateful for a team that honestly has adapted so well into this new sort of environment. It's been a difficult journey, but I'm grateful to them for it, and I hope I can meet them more often. That's what excites me right now.
Thank you so much, Anshul. It was interesting and very enlightening to talk to you. And thanks for your time. And I wish you a great year ahead and wish you a super success in all your plans.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you.